Welcome, foolish mortals, to the Haunted Mansion. Or my family room. One of the two.
Hi everyone, welcome to another vlog. Scoot this table, there we go. I figured today I was inspired by Justin Scard's My Haunted Mansion stuff video, which he had very interesting things. And I thought, I love the Haunted Mansion. It might be, it's not, I don't have a favorite ride at Disneyland because they're all good and they're all so different. So, but I'd say between Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion, if I really had to choose, it would be Haunted Mansion. I know that's controversial, but just gonna say that, throw that out there. Oh, it's very shadowy right here. Put Mickey back, there we go. Anyway, so over the years I've collected quite a bit of Haunted Mansion paraphernalia, and I figured might as well show off mine too, including behind me this blanket with the Haunted Mansion wallpaper. Look, I feel like I have a burp coming. Sorry, excuse me. So anyway, we can go through some of the things I've collected over the years for the Haunted Mansion and just show that. So one of the first things I'll show, we'll go over the smaller items first before we get to this big board game. Way back in the day, they redid the Ron Howard Haunted Mansion story. And so, not they redid, but they published it again. And so I bought the cassette tape, and I was very excited with like the branding and everything on the cassette tape. They did this, I think I was in like high school at the time. Let's see. Yes, high school at the time. This is in 1998. And they released the tape, which was a two-sided tape with the story from the Haunted Mansion. No booklet, unfortunately, but is that focused? Maybe here. Just the cassette tape. So I went to the Disney store purposely just to go get this. And I've had it all these years, even though I don't have a tape player anymore. Another thing, just going along with like music and everything, over the years I bought a lot of, maybe like three, so maybe not a ton, but 3 CDs related to the Haunted Mansion. And I bought this one most recently at the park. And it includes the Haunted Mansion, the whole soundtrack, the music box, which you hear played a lot at Disneyland when they do the Nightmare Before Christmas, rebranding of the ride. And then some things from Phantom Manor in Paris, focus on the graveyard scene, etc. The CD was cool. It looked like it had the Haunted Mansion branding, of course. So then the wallpaper that you see behind me is on the CD. I wonder what's behind it. Oh, similar wallpaper again. Oh, you see my reflection in the camera, but anyway. And then it had an interesting booklet that I would sometimes read when like stuck in horrible traffic that talks about the history of the ride itself, how they came up with like the initial idea for like a Main Street ride or walkthrough, and then morphed into the New Orleans Square ride that we know today. A lot of Walt Disney meeting with the Imagineers who helped plan the ride itself. So it was a pretty interesting like booklet that came with it, and like I said, something to read when stuck in traffic. So that was pretty interesting. So there was that one from the park itself. This one is specifically branded for Disneyland Park, so I'm guessing Disney World, because I know they have their own Haunted Mansion store, just like Disneyland does. And maybe it's a picture of that Haunted Mansion versus the New Orleans Square. So there's that. And then back in the day, I was actually like thinking after Pirates of the Caribbean, like, oh, when they make the Haunted Mansion movie, that'll be good. And unfortunately, in my opinion, it wasn't. So this Haunted Mansion book is more about like how they took the ride and made it into the movie itself, and how they interpreted parts of the ride into the movie, as well as going over things like the Disneyland Paris version, which looks pretty cool. I've never, excuse me, never been on that, but like they have the different interpretations of what it would look like in there, and it's an Old West theme there, which is pretty cool. So I'd like to see that. But this one is a little bit like a lot of the history of the Haunted Mansion, and then how they would fit it into the movie itself. What's interesting too is at one point, because they were thinking this for the original Haunted Mansion, for the Paris one, they were gonna do like can you see that? Let me hold it here. You're in like a river type of thing, and you go down this like swampy area, and I was like, that would have been pretty cool. They were thinking of that for the graveyard, and I remember they mentioned that here. So this is the Haunted Mansion from the Magic Kingdom to the movies, and again, it's focused on the movie version. And then more recently, in terms of books, I just bought a classic with the classic Haunted Mansion picture that you see walking into the park, the kind of like preview of the ride. And this one is not focused on the movie, it's more just focused on the history of the ride. It includes some images up close that you wouldn't see because they're behind the scenes, like the organ that's in the ride. And so this one is a little bit more in depth on the ride itself and the ride history, some concept art from what the ride could have looked like when Mark Davis was planning it to be a little more of like a fun type of ride. You can see a knight with its head off. They kind of went with that theme with the Hatbox Ghost that they have in the current ride. As I say that, the Hatbox Ghost comes up as like, this is something they were going to do, and then they eventually did in Disneyland, so there was that. So this is, again, a very in-depth look at all the different Haunted Mansion versions at Disney World, Disneyland, Paris, Tokyo, all of them, including the Mystic Manor in I believe this one is in Hong Kong, if I'm getting that correct. And they did that as a little more of like an Adventureland combo with the Haunted Mansion theme. So that looks pretty cool. What's interesting about the Haunted Mansion is it's different in every park, and it's in a different land in every park. So you get kind of a different thing every time. So if I had to choose between the two books, where's the other one? I mean, this one is definitely the preference. It's more about the ride itself. Like I said, this one focused on the movie aspect in that movie. I don't think it was just my opinion, didn't do too well. Alright. I actually picked up at the Walt Disney Family Museum. They have these e-ticket magazines there. They are... No, it says $7.95, but I think they're $15 at the museum because they don't print these really anymore. They sell like the remainders. And so this one has the Ghost House. This is the Ghost House issue, which talks about all of the concepts for the Haunted Mansion. Very in-depth, I'd say, from the early age aspect. And it tends to have like very old photos of Disneyland itself. It's definitely focused on like Walt Disney's approach towards these rides in that era, and so it goes very in depth with like concept art, even for like the walkthrough version of the Haunted Mansion they originally were thinking about. And I'm glad they went with the Doom buggies instead to give your feet a break. But again, it's a very in-depth magazine, focus a lot on like Walt Disney's planning of the park too. It tends to be like the gist of the magazine. So and it always includes a cool photo in the back. Like here's Walt Disney with his grandkids. So that's pretty cool on the mine train. I still have to read this to be honest, but this will be an interesting addition. Like I said, these go very in depth in like the past and the planning of the ride. I think I picked up kind of recently for the 50th anniversary, and I kind of wish I got a couple more things related to the 50th anniversary, was this magnet, which looks like the things that you see at the entrance of the Haunted Mansion, the plaques that say the ride name, but this says 50th anniversary, so I thought that was a cool magnet and memorabilia. It says 50 years of frightening fun. It's Disneyland specific, so pretty cool. Two of the things that I have here that tend to actually do pretty well, I think, not do pretty well, but they're popular, are popcorn buckets. This one still has kernels in it, so I gotta clean this out. This is from like apparently 5.5 years ago. This is a 45th anniversary bucket. So they have the 45th anniversary there, and then they have the different Disney characters as part of the stretching wallpaper portraits, which is pretty cool. They have every version of it with the different characters. So I thought that was cool. They even had like the wallpaper branding around the portraits pretty well, and so I bought this bucket, and apparently need to clean it. And then another bucket I bought, I think after that. He's missing an ear. One ear missing, so we gotta go find this. The mystery of Mickey's missing ear was Mickey as the Hatbox Ghost with a pumpkin inside of the Hatbox. I thought it was a pretty cool bucket. So they had this one, and at least this one's clean, just missing an ear. And then they had the 3 hitchhiking ghosts, which I have these toys from I don't know how many years ago, of the 3 hitchhiking ghosts. They had the popcorn buckets of these guys that are selling very high, like for a very high price right now. So kind of wish I got that. It was for the 50th anniversary, but don't have them. But I way back in the day got these guys. It's the 3 hitchhiking ghosts. This guy's missing his top hat. It's somewhere. These actually glow in the dark too, which the other night I was like, as I set this up on this table, I was like, what the heck is that? It's because these glow in the dark. I thought it was actually like haunted for a sec. But they include the 3 hitchhiking ghosts. There's supposed to be like a briefcase. One of them has like the ball and chain, which I believe is this guy. So there you go. Missing some parts, but that was another thing I picked up. Oop, as they fall over. And then way back in the day, they did these like die cast. This is from like the late 90s. I think these are actually worth a decent amount too now. And so I bought the Haunted Mansion. It's Mickey and Goofy riding in the ride with, I think his name's Professor Phineas something, if I got that right. And then there's a 13 on the back, of course. And this part actually opens and closes, just like the actual Doom buggies. So they did these die-cast models of like the characters riding the rides. I have a couple other of these as well, from like Splash Mountain and the Matterhorn. And apparently they're worth a pretty penny. I did not realize that when I bought them at the time, of course. And then in terms of games, I should show a couple other things. I did have these like playing cards from back in the day. Which includes the stretching portraits, and the like king, queen, etc. include the actual like portraits themselves. Versus, oh, Madame Leota is on the Joker card, so there you go. Yeah, they had. I remember buying these ages ago. As well. It might have been the late 90s, I don't remember. And the Haunted Mansion logo in the back actually glows in the dark too. They're very into glow in the dark with the Haunted Mansion things, but they kind of did this like faded look on the portraits. Or what would the word be? I guess like distressed look. And so I remember even back then being like, oh, I wish it was just the full picture and not that look. But it kind of makes like, whenever I use these branded playing cards, it always takes a little bit longer to process what I have versus actual playing cards. So I usually rarely use these. But at one point I was like, oh, it's Haunted Mansion branded. And it's glow in the dark, so I'll buy these. So I had that. And then this game, I should actually change the position of the camera in a sec. This is the Haunted Mansion Life that I bought recently. In the park, there's like a stand by the Haunted Mansion. And I was like, oh, like a Haunted Mansion themed game, and I like Life, so Life the game. So I was like, oh, I'll buy this. So I will open this, and we can go through the different parts of it. A lot of little pieces, so some of them are missing. But anyway, so this is the cover itself. It's the game of Life with the Haunted Mansion characters, including the hitchhiking ghosts and the graveyard, scared graveyard guy, and the bus, and then you get the candles in the stretching room. Let's open this. Wow. Okay, give me a sec here because I gotta actually open the game itself. The board has the different kind of like wallpaper, again, like you see in the blanket there, the wallpaper on the ride as you're going through the hallway. And let me open this up for the next shot. It's similar to Life, the game, like the same idea, except you have these colored Doom buggies that you ride in the ride. Let me open one. And they have different versions, the different versions of the Haunted Mansion on the board. Like that's Phantom Manor, I believe. And they have the Disney World version, the Disneyland version back here. The money itself is all, again, like the stretching portraits theme. So 500 has that one. 1,000 has this guy. This is before they actually start stretching.
etc. Oops. Okay, one sec. And then they have these like different investment cards as part of it. Starter tomb, for instance, instead of starter home. They have the different characters in like the graveyard scene as part of the. I think in these like you get. I forget in actual life what you get. I haven't played actual life in ages, but they include like incorporated the characters into a lot of these. The cards that you get along the way. The spinner wheel thing has the raven here. Oh, I really give that a hard spin. Let's see, the money I think goes in this. And so various, throughout the trail and everything is like, it's same as life, but of course like death taxes due. It's all Haunted Mansion themed. So it's just like life, but they rebranded towards Haunted Mansion and the characters. And again, you ride in these doom buggies. So, and then the theming throughout the board is like the various Haunted Mansion aspects, including like the hitchhiking ghosts and the singing bus over here. So, pretty interesting version. A lot of pieces, as you can see. So you can easily lose pieces too. So just a warning there. But nonetheless, that was, oops, can't even fold the board. Haunted Mansion Life. Let's see if I can, does that do it? The board game. And then back in the day, McDonald's had a promotion for the movie, as I drop these pieces. I don't know if anyone remembers that. The movie again did not do so hot. But, yeah, sorry, looks like the camera's a little crooked. Sorry. So they had this like Madame Leota that used to actually light up in the back. There's a little switch. No longer does, but it included this pretty detailed like medium stand that the crystal ball would go on, and then this would detach because it's supposed to float around like Madame Leota, which means kids could easily lose it. But again, a lot of it isn't working anymore on this one. And then they had this mirror that's not really part of the ride, but a ghost would appear. I don't know if that captures on camera, but the ghost would appear when you'd flip the switch as well. So those are the two I picked up during that promotion. Of course, this is when I was like in college, and I was like, can I get a Happy Meal one of the few times? Because it had Haunted Mansion related toys. And then lastly, this is a poster I'll show in a second, obviously, I guess. Then I picked up this at Target semi-recently, so I guess the collection keeps going, for the giant Funko Pop. Apparently his name is Ezra. So the hitchhiking ghost with the top hat is Ezra, and this is like a huge version of it. And it's for the 50th anniversary. They included a lot of the graveyard scene characters and Madame Leota as well. So it's still in the box, apparently only at Target, and picked this up one day. It's huge, the biggest Funko Pop I have. I don't know if they made his friends, the other hitchhiking ghosts. I would imagine this is when at the park you could actually print out on Main Street ride posters. I think it was like, and they would mail it to you. I don't think they do this anymore, sadly. So it's a pretty big version of this one. This is the same one you see in the entrance to Disneyland. And so I picked this up. I think it was like $30 at the time. But there you go. It's the classic poster used to promote the ride in horrifying sight and sound in New Orleans Square. And apparently now we know his name is Ezra. So there you go. Alright, well thanks for watching. Hopefully you found this video somewhat entertaining. It was interesting pulling together all of my Haunted Mansion things. I didn't realize I had as many as I did when I first saw Justin's video, then thought about making my own version. I didn't realize how much stuff I had, although you never know, there's probably more to come. Maybe there'll be a part 2 of this one day. Who knows? Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this. Stay tuned for more videos, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.